I remember when I was a boy, little boy, and my grandfather had his own garden. And his garden was pretty big. And I can remember the neighbors and just anybody who came on the street. My grandfather had one of the first houses right when you turn on the street, and it was noticeable. The garden was right there. And people used to go and they used to steal food from his garden. Everybody on the street and people he didn't know, they would come when anytime they seen his car was gone, or at night, or sometimes even during broad daylight, where they'll send their kids to hop over fences and just take from the garden. And I used to ask my grandfather, I'm 7 years old, 8 years old, I used to say, Grandpa, aren't you upset? Like, why don't we build a higher fence? Why don't we try to do something? They're taking the grapes, they're taking the watermelon, they're taking the cabbage, you know. And my grandpa used to say, well, God gave me the ability to plant. And if these people need this food more than I do, then I'm doing God's work. I'm feeding my community. They just don't know that all they have to do is ask. And that kind of stayed with me. And that was the type of person my grandfather was. And I think that gardening, for me, it just connects me with my grandfather in a way. It just brings me back to when my grandfather was alive and all those times out working the field, not knowing as a kid, and especially as a little boy, that later on in life I would be starting my own garden with my family to feed my family, and eventually have enough food to give away to my neighbors and to my family and to my friends and anyone who needs it. But I think my grandfather is the reason, or the start of gardening for me. And now as a grown man looking back on so many years, it's just amazing what my grandfather was able to plant and how he was able to just tend to his backyard and his land every single day. And he was a much older man than I am today, and he was out there every single day. And I had no clue the type of shape that my grandfather was in. I'm thinking, hey, this is my grandpa, I gotta help him out. But my grandpa, he was digging holes, and he was, moving things around, and he was doing everything that I'm doing right now in the garden, my grandfather was doing at a much older age than I am right now. And just looking back, I can respect that. Like, he really was putting in the work, and I see why he would ask for me and my brother just to come help out. And if I can go back, I would have took that time in that garden to ask him more questions actually about gardening, and ask him more questions just about what made him want to garden, and why is he planting this, and why does he prefer that over that. Because obviously my grandfather knew what he was doing, because not even trying, he was feeding the whole community. And sure, it was some people, a lot of people did come by and stop by, and they would, ask him if he can spare this, or, he'll get baskets together and he'll just give it out to people. But the funny part about my grandfather's garden, I seldom remember us actually taking from that garden eating. I just remember us giving that food away, taking it to the church and giving the food away. And I don't remember us actually enjoying the spoils of everything that he planted. It was all about feeding the community and feeding everybody else. So just a early memory of gardening for me.